Going on, everybody? We're here. We're live. Welcome to a brand new Poker Live podcast. My name is Joey Bunch, aka Chicago Joey. Before we get into this very epic podcast, I want to do a couple things. Reminder: yesterday we did an amazing podcast with Matt Berkey. This Thursday we got Mike McDonald Timex, and Friday we got Jason Kuhn for the Super High Roller Bowl week. And also, and this was supposed to come out on Monday, but we were going to give we were going to give away Phil one of these courses. Upswing Poker's putting out their tournament course with Doug and Pertush. It's going to be out next Monday now, and we're doing some bonus content for that. I'm making 20 extra videos for this course too. And you guys don't know I don't play tournaments, but it'll be related to just getting better at poker. So that's going to be out next Monday, and there'll be a link in the description below. Also, I'm a Whale. They got in touch with me. You guys know I talked with them before a couple times. They helped stake me after Black Friday when all my money was online and I couldn't get it off, unfortunately. But they take American players, they take worldwide players, they coach, they stake for American sites, all the sites, and check them out on whale.com. That's it. Joining me today on the podcast is a legend of the poker world. He's been beating Nolan home tournaments and cash games for I think as long as I've been born, which is 31 years now. He's a man with the most bracelets in the entire poker world. I'm pretty sure that's still true. A man who sits courtside at the Warriors games, and you get to see him when you're watching the basketball games like I do all the time. A man everyone knows all around the world. We're joined by the poker brat himself, Phil Hellmuth. What's up, Phil? Welcome officially to the podcast.
I just had to fuck with you, Joey. Sorry about that. We had some
the lights went out over there, man. The lights went out, huh?
I just had to mess with you a little bit. No, life is good. I'm here in Vegas. I'm playing a 10K in about an hour at the Aria. And I mean, I'm just having such a good time. I came here to MC Tiger Jam, and I'm just staying in town. It's time to work on my poker game. My sister's here. She's a Special Olympian. She has some gold medals in Special Olympics from Madison. I flew her out for 6 days, so I had to spend the day with her yesterday. And, you know, life is really good.
Yeah, man. Sounds like you been having a busy couple of days out here. So you were doing the MCing on the Tiger Jam the other day. I saw you with Kate Upton. You guys were doing a little dance. I don't know, man. You're out there. You're in the middle of things, man. How was how's that experience like out there when you're doing that MC? And it seems like you probably know a lot of the people that are playing in that. Some of the celebrities and the well-known people.
Well, I mean, a couple things. One, I didn't even tweet out. Daniel Negreanu and I went out drinking with Mark Cuban and my wife. We went out to Hakkasan late at night with him. That was fun. Of course, he had an amazing booth. But, you know, I was really impressed. And I love Mark Cuban. We've hung out a bunch of times now. But Kate Upton, I mean, she's really, it's amazing how well she's dealing. I mean, she's 24. It's amazing how well she's dealing with all the fame. I run into a lot of celebrities. A lot of the people in their 20s don't deal with it well. A lot of people are really messed up. There's this kind of thing where you have the real you is here, their persona's here, and they get split. And I didn't figure this out till I was 45. And so you want to have it all together. Now I'm all together. And some people say you look more comfortable in your skin when you're all together, or you're glowing a little bit. It feels like I've been glowing for a long time. Kate was definitely glowing. And she was telling me about this. And I'm like, yeah, I learned that too when I was about 45. You're 24. And so she was super comfortable, and it was pretty impressive that she was, handled herself so well.
So if you said for yourself the persona here and there, so I think a lot of people always wonder out there is how close, when you're playing poker, when you're at the table, there's a lot of blowups that happen. There's the idiots from Northern Europe. There's all these kind of comments, and a lot of people wonder, how far is that from the real you? And I've heard from a lot of people that, that's not really the real you, but I think a lot of people only see that on television and they just assume that's how you are all the time.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, from day one, I always assumed, okay, I will be the bad boy of poker. Okay, that's kind of how I was branded. But I always figured by 2005, 2006, everybody would figure out that I'm not the bad boy of poker. I don't do drugs. I don't go out and drink heavily every night. I'm not a huge drinker. Heavily. I'm not a bad person. I've been married 27 years. I pride myself on being a really good father. So I have all these kind of anti things that make me into a really good guy. And so I always figured the public would figure it out. They never did. All they paid attention to was, me just blowing up and losing it. So It's a good question you asked. So the persona stuff more I think of as being, you know, Phil Hellmuth, world famous poker player, bad boy, living the movie, living the life. You know, just when I do go to a club, and I always tell my wife this, there's always a beautiful woman on my left and my right. Not that I ever do anything, you know, and then you look at, you know, the me. I've never cheated on my wife in 27 years, you know. And so that's kind of a weird thing, because I find myself with models and actresses that are really famous, and they're interested in me because of the bad, because over here, because I'm a bad boy, because I'm rich and famous, you know, and I'm really fun to be with. So maybe that's a messed up answer. What I'm trying to say is, I couldn't live over here all the time, and when I did, it really messed me up. And so, you know, the stability of being with my wife for 27 years, and man, I mean, I was a pain in the ass for over the first 15 years. Loyal, yes. True, yes. All that stuff, but I was a pain, man. And now I think the last 4 or 5 years, I'd like to think that I've been pretty damn easy to get along with, and pretty fun to be with. So, you know, she waited for the diamond in the rough. And we work hard. We work hard. I'll say one last thing, Joey. We work hard, man. Kathy and I work hard. We go into therapy together. We spend an hour and a half a week together when I'm in town, which is quite often. And she just keeps telling me, you do this wrong, you do that wrong. I tell her what she does right and wrong. And we take it to heart, and we keep working and getting better, smarter. It helps my poker, and it helps all my relationships. And so, you know, I think that I'm finally the man that I've always wanted to become. I'm almost there. I still have to keep working, but.
So what do you think that you need to, in your opinion, keep working on to become the type of person that you would like to become?
It's a tough balance, you know. Right now I'm dealing with some, you know, I mean, I go to these things, and I go to Tiger Jam, and I'm the center of attention, right? There's a, you know, and there's Chris Paul was there, Mark Cuban's there, but I have the microphone for like 5-6 hours, and I'm rapping on the mic. I'm just having fun, and bringing energy to the room. And then it's hard to, you know, I mean, I was at the Billboard Music Awards with the chairman of Billboard on Sunday, Peter Guber, you know, this Hollywood legend, and I find myself in these amazing spots on the floor of the Warriors game, sitting with the owner, riding up with him, you know, the players coming over and saying hi. Steph Curry, what's up, Phil? You know, I mean, Draymond Green, what's up, Phil? All these guys coming up, and I feel like, and so you have to balance this. Like, if you buy into that and you think, wow, I'm this badass, you're screwed. So then, but if you think you're nothing, then that's bad too. So there's a balance between how you want to act and how you want to be egotistically. And maybe I'm as close to ever mastering it as I've ever been, but I suspect I still have a couple more years to go, you know, where I don't seem too cocky and too egotistical. And I don't want to end up on the other side either, though.
Right. So we are live here, guys, on YouTube, on Twitch, and I already see some fun comments out there. But so I think when you talk about things like this to people, most people are going to be, they obviously can't relate to these type of things you're talking about. But I think what most people don't realize is that, you know, no matter where you're at in the world, no matter what your status is or whatever it is that you do, everyone always has these sort of issues that they're trying to figure out. They have these things that they're trying to manage, these things they're trying to navigate. So for someone like, you know, let's say some guys in the Twitch chat, they're trying to maybe, you know, no shouts to them. They're maybe trying to navigate, you know, the basement computer area or something like that. I don't know, whatever. But then you have some people who are trying to navigate these relationships with these, you know, with people that are famous, right? And people that are well known, and you're out there in the world, and people are paying attention to you. And I think, as you've talked about, you know, that brings its own sort of challenge to the table. But at the same time, you do want to talk about it because you want to get better at it. But also, it seems like when you do talk about things like this, then people just say, oh, you know, like, well, my God, this and that, egotistical, that kind of stuff. So yeah. I imagine for you, it's a really hard.
Can't win.
Right. Yeah. It's like you want to get better at it. You want to talk about it. But at the same time, certain people are going to say like, oh, what the fuck, man, this guy's talking about this. So now I understand where they're coming from too. But I certainly understand where you're coming from, because I think anytime. Right.
People always say you drop too many names. I can't help it if I'm hanging out with Draymond Green or Steph Curry or any of these guys. I can't help. What am I going to do? Not tweet it? And so you know, and so I think most people are over that aspect. But you're right. And you know, it's interesting, Joey. You're onto something here. The English. Like, if I'm in England and I show a lot of ego, then I'm just a complete asshole. Like, so I mean, you know, but so if I'm in the States, I'm a little bit better. So even talking about just my life. I mean, the last week has been incredible. You know, we took we took out this pimped out $1 million bus to U2, you know. I mean, filled with everything from fruit to satellite. I mean, it's just the life is, and this is just the last week. We went up to Hamilton. We took a private bus up there with our folks. And so it's just, I'm playing poker with, you know, if I mentioned, I can't even tell their names. Like, I mean, people would be like, oh my God.
So I allegedly, Phil, I've heard some of these names before. I've heard names like Elon Musk, like Bill Clinton, some names like that.
Well, I mean, I do. He's not a poker player. Elon Musk is not a poker player. He's come by our game once or twice and said hello. I've been to a couple of his events. That guy, by the way, is super humble. I mean, he's for real humble. Like, I've hung out with him enough times where I'm really impressed, because he's has every reason to be really cocky, and just he holds it together well.
Do you think,
as far as President Clinton
do you think you're humble? When you think about the word humble, do you think that you're someone that's humble?
Be humble. Sit down. Be humble. Sit down.
So is that a yes or no? I'm not sure.
I mean, I have my issues with, now my wife will tell you that I'm humble, but she's with me all the time. Actually, she will tell you right now I'm not humble. I've been winning a lot of money lately. I've been having all these amazing experiences. I mean, when you talk about going to the Warriors games and sitting on the floor, you know, it's that's my ringtone. If you talk about going to the Warriors games and sitting on the floor, that's one thing. It's really cool to be there, and those tickets for the playoffs are what, 20,000 each. That's amazing experience. But then to be with the owners, and in the owners' room, I mean, we walk in right by the locker room. It's pretty crazy, and it just, and I never get bored, and so these experiences, they can't help but affect your ego. And so I'm trying, but when you win a lot of money and you have a lot of really cool experiences, you have to battle the ego.
Have you ever thought about being a rapper? Because if you were a rapper, you could actually talk about all this shit, and everyone, it's on brand completely. Whereas if you're Drake and you say all this stuff, it's like, oh man, Drake's the man. But if you say it, it's like, oh my God, Phil's dropping names again, man. He's talking about doing this again. So, you know, maybe
I would think 80% of the people listening to this probably just understand it's my life, and that's just, I've been very blessed, and I'm really having a lot of fun. There are probably 20. You're always gonna have 10 or 20% that harp on the name dropping or look for the negativity. But in general, I'm all about positivity, and so it doesn't affect me. I do rap on the mic quite a bit at these events. I do one for President Clinton. I did Tiger Woods. I do one for Eva Longoria. I do one for J.B. Pritzker and the Chicago guys for the Holocaust Museum. I do one for the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. We've raised $10 million with Dan Shack.
Nice.
And so, you know, and so I have a lot of fun raising charity. It's $46 million. If you go to my website or in my autobiography, which is out in about a month and a half, I have listed every event I've done. So I have fun rapping.
You make up your own raps? You like a freestyle rapper, or do you have it written down?
No, I'm boring. I'm boring. Stuff like, you know, way up, I feel blessed. Way up, I feel blessed. I live the life I deserve. Blessed. Fuck a vacay, I feel better at work. Blessed. Way up, I feel blessed.
Ladies and gentlemen, Big Sean, aka Phil Hellmuth, in the house today, joining us on the podcast. He is here. He is live from the hotel room here. Are you at the Aria? You're at the Aria. I don't care if he's not at the Aria. He's got to say he's at the Aria because he's wearing that Aria hat. So
I'm at the Aria. Trust me.
Phil, I heard a story from Daniel that you allegedly think that you made up GTO. Is this true? So GTO shot the GTO's a way of life. You made it up.
No, I mean, there was a misunderstanding there where, so the way Daniel described GTO to me, or the way it was described to me, I thought it was something that I've used a long time. So, but Game Theory Optimal, I mean, the version that Daniel's talking about, that you're talking about, I didn't invent. But all I was trying to say was this. as someone who's won, 50, 60, 100, whatever, no limit hold'em tournaments, hold'em events, I oftentimes have to face, when we make it down to three-handed, it's always two different personality types and me, always. And so I had to play optimally against my opponents in every situation, and that situation varied completely. Sometimes I'd be with two bombers. I've been down to three-handed where I was playing with a guy that had staked the other guy.
Shout out to, was his name Fedor Holz, or was this someone else?
No. I mean, the guy had staked the guy, and it was this. We're talking about, I don't know, maybe 14 years ago, and I knew they'd staked it, and they admitted it. But I mean, it really affected the way they played against each other, and so I was just in this weird kind of spot. So I'm just saying. And I just kind of like didn't play any hands and just waited for them to tangle up, and they got so frustrated they finally started bickering a little bit, and one of them went broke. And so, I mean, but the point is that, so my simple point is this: I look for game theory optimal spots, a game theory optimal strategy, 10,000 times in my life, based on who I'm playing against. So that's all I was saying. Daniel pointed out he was talking about something completely different.
So you do realize that in the Super High Roller Bowl last year, this actually happened where Fedor, Seidel, and Rayner, and Fedor had allegedly most of Rayner in that spot, and Seidel was three-handed with them.
Yes. And well, I was fourth in that event. So yes, I'm well aware. That one really hurt because Eric had no chips, and I waited for hours for him to go broke. And, I mean, by the way, that cost me a lot of money. I made 1.6 million, of which I had a lot of partners for. But I mean, if Eric goes broke and we gave him 2.5, 3 hours to go broke, I moved to 2.4 million, and then we talk. And so that one hurt.
Yeah. Are you how you feeling about this year's coming up, the Super High Roller Bowl?
I've worked really hard on my game. So I've worked really hard on, and so I think the last time I spent 14 days just playing every day, talking strategy, and of course I talk strategy all the time on the phone anyway, but to be at the LAPC for 14 days, just playing every day, improving myself. I thought, if I can be the best hold'em player in the world based on bracelets, then all of a sudden I'm the best Raz player in the world, 7-card low, based on results. I have 2 firsts and a second just in the last 5 years, which is already the record. 2 firsts and a second. And I thought, why can't I get there in other games? Why can't I be the best in the world at deuce to 7 no limit? Why can't I be the best in the world at Omaha 8 or better? Why can't I be the best in the world at stud 8 or better? So I worked really hard on all of those games, and we worked really hard on hold'em as well. The last time I put that kind of effort in February, and I'm here early in Vegas to play mixed games for a few more days. The last time I put that kind of effort in, I won 2 bracelets in 12. So that's what I'm hoping for.
So to you, I guess, what's your metric of what makes the best in the world? Because I think some people say if you only do bracelets, well, I mean, some people say bracelets doesn't tell the whole entire story in determining who one of the best in the world is.
Well, cash games don't tell the best story, because there's a story, because almost every high limit cash game player that you can name that has been staked or has had a big business interest. All of them. Some of them are just good. So you want to go out and say, this guy's amazing at cash games, and I dig into that and I start peeling back layers. He was broke 5 years ago. He was broke 10 years ago. He was broke 15 years ago. He got staked. He's just really good at asking people to stake him. He's just really good at finding the best cash games in the world. He's just really good at at investing in business, and that's allowed him to stay alive in the high limit games. So you want to start talking about who the best cash game players in the world. There's a lot of layers there, and that's a very complex talk and conversation. I'm not denying that Ivy's one of them, but there's everybody else. There's a story behind. Number one. Number two, the guys that are playing the high rollers, my life is too rich. I love my life. It's almost perfect. Perfect's a bad word. My life is super rich, and I'm super happy with what I'm doing. I can't travel to the East Coast or to the Caribbean or to China or wherever to play $250,000 buy-ins, 100K buy-ins with 30 other people. And yet these guys that only have 10% of themselves or 15% of themselves in all these buy-ins have all managed to pass me on the all-time money list, which is aggravating for me. And yet, and so that's another metric. But I'm not interested in trying to become that person. The only way you can really measure who the best players in the world are is dropping them in the most prestigious tournaments in the world and making them start just like everybody else with the same amount of chips. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it's, if I somehow win 2 bracelets this year, the minute I win 1 bracelet this year, everyone's going to talk about Phil's the greatest of all time. They're going to remember all the final tables, all the bracelets, all the cashes, all the stuff I've done, and yet if I don't win a bracelet, well, last year I didn't win a bracelet, and already they're talking about, how I'm starting to fade. It's really kind of an interesting, and maybe they should be, but I probably don't have enough events. And one last point about that. When I wrote the autobiography, I was thinking, wow, I had all these great years at the World Series. All these other years I didn't do much. Until I looked at Hennen Mob. I was like, holy shit, I didn't win a bracelet in 96, but I finished in the top 3 of the first 2 televised poker tournaments ever. And I just looked, and there's just all of these I mean, I looked from the millennia, 2000, January 2000, until 3 or 4 years later, I had 50 some final tables, all of them in big events. And so I was just like, what is going on here? So I realized that I think if you're a great poker player, you're going to have this, Joey. And some of it you just can't help. Some of it, all right, sometimes your ego pushes you to bad spots. But sometimes you're just on. And when you're on and you're a great player, you have multiple high finishes. Every year, someone wins 2 bracelets, 3 bracelets every year. And it's one of the guys that can do it. But, there's maybe 20 guys that can get that hot, and you've got, not just me, there's a bunch of guys that could win multiple bracelets this year.
Yeah. I mean, so I think what you just said, a lot of people reading the chat, I think people maybe don't kind of understand, or they probably don't agree with you. I would just say from some of the comments here right now, but I do understand where you're coming from when you say this. And you mentioned that you have a super rich life. And I think what he means by that is doesn't necessarily means that he has, it's not about necessarily the super rich from a monetary perspective. It's super rich in the experiences and the opportunities.
That's exactly what I mean. I've been married 27 years. I consider that a really big part of the super rich experience. That's what I mean to say.
I would love to talk more about that one. I mean, listen, I don't know, man. If I'm meeting some of these women, Phil, I just got to say, man, I don't know. Listen, puppy. No, man. I don't know, man. Shout out to your wife. I don't want to get too much into that. I'm just saying from my perspective, I don't know, man. That's some shout out to the girls out there.
I try to think of it like this. I try to think of it like this. I'm at a club, beautiful woman on both sides. And I'm talking to one, she's not very smart. I'm not interested. I'm talking to the other, not very smart. They have to be beautiful and brilliant. But then occasionally there's someone who's beautiful and brilliant who I'm talking to. And now I'm getting deeper and deeper into the conversation. You're almost staring into the eyes. You know what I'm saying? And I'm saying, man, that girl is beautiful, and she's really together, and she's super interested in me, and all that stuff happens. And then I tell myself, and then I go to the bathroom. And I tell myself,
instant shove? No, instant, like high stakes poker style?
I go to the bathroom and I tell myself, and I grab my coat when I go to the bathroom. I say, I'll be right back. I go to the bathroom and I tell myself, you're gonna last about 30 seconds. You're gonna have 30 seconds of fun, and you're gonna tell your wife you're fucked, and it's gonna mess everything up. All that trust of me being on the road is just gone because I know I couldn't not tell her. I'd have to tell her, and so that's what always saves me. You would tell her, shoot, boom, limo out of here, back to the hotel.
Are you sure it's not the snap shove all in with the aces? Come on, man. That's like the patented move right there.
I mean, but what, for 30 seconds?
Yeah. I mean, they got drugs for that now. I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, they do. They just have, they have things you can do. I don't know, man. Allegedly.
I'm kidding about 30 seconds, but whatever. I mean, how, it's just like, how much time are you going to
So that's the move, right? So, I mean, I think the height, tall guy, I think that helps. You get to stare down, you stare into the eyes, you're having a deeper conversation. I mean, this is some good tips out there for a lot of guys out there.
Well, I mean, yeah, okay, the height helps. I think I'm a big person. I think I'm fun to be with. All of you people on the chat that are listening to this, if you went and had a beer with me, you would have fun, and I'd shake your hand and I'd show you nothing but respect. We'd have fun. We'd probably have a couple beers, talk about sports or whatever. And so I think that I'm a fun person to be with. And so I think in these spots, they see me, I'm not saying these girls are after me because I'm good looking. I'm obviously a little bit older. I mean, they're interested in the first place because I'm rich, famous, and a bad boy, kind of the bad trifecta, right? That's why they're interested. And then they see, wow, this guy's kind of has a big personality. He's fun. He's tall. And then there's a lot more interest. And so, but at that point, again, I'm not just off to the bathroom, off to the limo. Bye-bye.
I got to see this. I want to see this for myself one time, man. I gotta witness it, man. I mean, I've seen the receipts. I've seen you out there, talking to the women, and I see things before, so I know what happens, man. But I think you got a polarized personality. You got that loud personality. You're a fun guy, and if you go out and you have a fun time, and you're someone smiling, you're laughing, you're drinking, you're not a fucking total party pooper that's sitting there in the corner, like arms folded like this, like not saying a word. I think women like that, and obviously you mentioned any sort of status or power or perceived status, any sort of money. I mean, that's what women find attractive. And if the people you're with are also a certain status, then women find that very attractive too. It's just, I feel like that's just how it works for a lot of people.
I feel like it's not even a big deal. I feel like if you're a celebrity and you're in Vegas, it's probably pretty easy. It's like shooting fish in the barrel if that's what you're after, and it's just not my style, so I don't judge anybody else that does that. I mean, it's not a big deal. But I'm married. I'm happily married. I know I found the one, and that's powerful to me, But I also
no, you're gonna finish that thought. I was gonna transition to another topic.
Yeah, whatever you like.
All right, so now one of the I put on Instagram. Shout out to Instagram. By the way, so my Instagram name is Poppy GTO. Your Instagram name is Being the Greatest. Now, what the hell are you thinking when you make this name Being the when you tell people on my Instagram name is Being the Greatest? Like, what? How did it come to be that rather than just Phil Hellmuth?
I had something that I used to go by trying to be the greatest, and then I didn't win anything for a couple of years. And once I switched to Being the Greatest, my wife, who's an ego check for me, said much better. Being the greatest is going to be great for you. And then I started winning a bunch of tournaments again. I think it helps in a mindset when you see when I'm checking into Instagram and I see Being the Greatest, it's like, it makes me feel like, all right, just be the greatest. What does that mean? Go win a bunch more bracelets. What does that mean? Go win a bunch more money. What does that mean? Write a New York, write the autobiography and make it inspirational and truthful. Talk about how you almost left your wife and how she almost left you. These are really these are chapters that every person can relate to that's been in a relationship. And so, and my next book's called Positivity. Joey, I think Positivity is going to be out by March, my How to Achieve Great Things in Life book. It's positivity. We're all in the right place at the right time. And it's going to be great. It's like Play Poker Like the Pros. That book hit the New York Times bestseller list for 4 or 5 weeks. I helped millions of people play poker. And now I'm going to write Positivity. I'm going to help tens of millions of people improve their lives. And so I like this positivity, this being the greatest, this like positive energy, it's great for me.
So do you feel like, so did you write the book yourself, or did you have someone help
Every
you with
word.
the book?
I mean, you have an editor, of course.
Right.
My editor this time around, my editor didn't do much. I mean, well, of course, there's red ink on every freaking page, but I mean, but that's writing skills. Versus that's using, different words here or there. He taught me the word auger, for my first book, which I love because he's 88 years old, my editor. And so his editing augurs well with my writing.
I wrote a book because I had a prop bet. So I wrote a book in 11 days earlier this year. It was 47,000 words. And there was a lot of my wizard assistant helped me with the unofficial edit. And then my young friend, Mason Melmuth, has helped me with the official edit now. And there's a lot of marks on there, Phil. I mean, it's
a lot of red.
A lot of red. He's like, no, I'm like, okay. So
being a great writer is not about having your English perfect. I mean, basically, there's an editor to do that, and being a great writer is being able to tell a great story. It's being able to give great strategy. It's being able to share yourself, and I think I'm proud of the way this book looks. I'm proud of the way I share all of my downs. You know, I share how my wife almost left me. I share all of these I think people are going to be I share how I felt like I was a high school loser, you know, from Madison, Wisconsin.
Interesting. So how do you think that's impacted you over the years? So if you go from having that perception of yourself, and then as you get older and you start having some success in poker, you start making money, and then the status starts to rise from there. So how do you feel like that's impacted you then?
There's an imbalance, messes you up. Obviously, I see when you have someone who has a really low view of themselves, really low self-esteem, and they go on to do great things, right? That is the biggest imbalance. And those are some of the most messed up celebrities. All right. Some celebrities, maybe Kate Upton was raised in she had handled herself well so far. Maybe she was, raised in a super, had great self-esteem about herself, felt good about herself. And now the fame has been easier for her to handle. So her self-esteem is not that far off height-wise. You know what I'm saying? Whereas for me, having not much going on in high school, except an undying belief I would do something great, but still all the evidence around me, bad grades, not enough friends, not enough women in my life, all of the kind of things that we judge ourselves by, you know what I mean? Not a great athlete. And so all of that stuff makes your self-esteem go low. And then to go out there and win the main event by age 24, it turned me into the poker brat.
So when that started happening, how do you feel like what were some of the mistakes that you think you made? Because you mentioned that you feel like, as of 3 to 4 years ago, now you're finally starting to find that balance of things, but you were imbalanced for quite a long time.
Oh yeah, the imbalance it's really tough to deal with. It's really tough to deal with, especially when now all of a sudden your image of yourself is this guy. And maybe that's part of creating a persona. Now all of a sudden now I'm the greatest poker player. In the 90s, I basically destroyed everybody in the late 80s and 90s, and even through I guess I'd call it the aughts. The aughts. You did really well, and so then you kind of try to adjust, and the one thing that's steady for me is my wife, and my children. And our kids are 26 and 23 now, my wife and I. And so, I had that steadiness of family, which helped me a ton. So if things were going, I can tell you a story that I wrote in my book that's a very profound story about my life, if you're interested.
Sure, let's hear it.
I'm in Madison, Wisconsin. It's about 1992, call it. And I'm in just a miserable mood. I've just lost $20,000. Now in Madison in the 92, or imagine that's 25 years ago. So 20, double. It's like losing 100,000 today or 120. Anyway, I've lost 20K in Madison. Okay. And I beat myself up, punch myself. You're a jerk, Phil. You're this, you're that. You should beat yourself up over this loss. Played for 36 hours, set the record loss. I'd never lost more than 10,000. So just in a miserable mood and refusing to see that I'm driving my new Porsche home, thought briefly about I should crash this car. I'm so upset. Which is just super childish, right? You know how thoughts flash through your mind sometimes like that. And I just show up in the most miserable, dark mood ever, and fail to see that I'm walking up, that I'm taking the elevator up to the penthouse of this beautiful condominium that I paid $200,000 for on the lake. Every room, I'm in the top floor of the penthouse. Every room faces lake. Not tuned into any of that bullshit, you know what I mean? Just miserable and not giving myself a break. And just like, it was probably the worst mood I've ever been in. Open the door to my place. My 2-year-old comes running up at me. I go down on my knees. I grab him and I give him a hug. And instantly I snap out of it. And I say, oh my God, how lucky am I just to have a perfect, super healthy 2-year-old in my arms. and the negativity's flowing out and dissipating at record levels. And I'm like, and I kiss my son on the forehead, you know, and he had curly blonde hair at the time, and I'm just like, oh my God, this is just such a gift, and then all of a sudden my eyes opened up to, oh, by the way, Phil, it's only 20,000, which is not a huge loss in Vegas. Oh, by the way, Phil, look at this beautiful penthouse condominium, and you drove your Porsche over here. You know, what is wrong with you? And so that was the effect of family when Philip was 2 years old, my youngest son. And so I've always found comfort in family. And so if ever I get in a kind of a frustrated or, you know, darker place, I mean, I can always talk to my wife and kids, and I haven't really had to deal with much depression in my life. I've been lucky, but that just shows me. So I'll always go to family.
I mean, I think it just goes to show the power of framing and sort of looking at things from a different lens instead of when you're here, if you can see things from this other lens, you know, it's sort of about, that's how you can get over situations, and that's how you can deal, especially in poker. Obviously, you play high stakes, you win a lot, you lose a lot, and your ability to recover and get over that, and then get past that and then move on and keep working is what helps people become consistent winners in poker for a very long time. So I want to talk about some quotes that people left here on my Instagram page too, because I said, what's one of your favorite Hellmuth quotes? And we got some good ones. And I think one of the most popular ones is when you told Tom Dwan that he won't even be around, what was it, in 5 or 10 years? And I don't know, I feel like you may have been proven to be right in this spot, Phil. I think that comment was pretty accurate though. What do you think?
Well, all right. If you want me to discuss that, I will. I'll say, number one, he is still around. He's playing high stakes poker. I never said he wouldn't be around. I said a lot of guys like you come around and they disappear within 5 years, which is true. I mean, there was one guy that they told me was the best player in the world, all the kids, in 07. And in 08, he was gone. I'm like, where is this guy who you said was the best player in the world? Oh, he's broke and living in New Jersey. I'm like, but you told me, you spent an hour telling me how great he was and how he had no flaws and all this bullshit. Gone in 08. I saw the guy again once or twice in 09 playing in a medium stakes game. And so it's amazing to me how people can talk about how great somebody is, and yet they've only been around for a year or two. And it's just so wrong. You have to talk about a lens. You can look at someone who's been super hot for a few months and you can say, oh, he's my hero. Well, do it for 10 years. Do it for 20 years. Do it for 30 years. But I mean, at least get to 10 before you're talking about greatness. So by the way, I think that Tom Dwan is doing well. I think some of my friends saw him last month in Cabo, eating at a really nice restaurant down there. And I saw him again at the private jet port. So he was on a private jet from Cabo somewhere. I suspect he has, and I've heard stories that, you know, about him trading millions of dollars with some of the Chinese players. So
yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people out there speculate what's been happening with him. You know, there's the whole entire the Jungle Man challenge never was resolved, and he hasn't really been in that spotlight much. So people love to talk about him, love to wonder what he's doing, because I think he was one of the favorite people to watch on television. He was a lot of action.
He's a guy like Ivy. Now you have to look at these two guys and you have to say, what happened to them? And you have to ask yourself, and you have to look deeply. And when I look at those two guys, I look at guys who were willing to play a lot of television stuff as long as they had something to promote. And so, you know, you saw Ivy and Dwan playing all these high stakes cash games on television, but they were getting paid a lot of money by Full Tilt to be there. You know, they're signing contracts for $1 million, $2 million, $3 million a year. And so there was something being promoted. And I think it kind of says that, you know, where would Ivy and Dwan rather be? They'd rather be kind of in the background a little bit, kind of hiding a little bit, kind of, you know, and you know, when you're in the public eye, there's pressure. I mean, it's a very unnatural place to be, Joey. When I'm in Vegas, especially at the World Series, I feel like I'm being treated like a U.S. president. It's not, I know everybody, oh, Phil's egotistical. No. Let's just talk for a second. Everywhere I go during the series, people want autographs, pictures. They're staring at me. What's he doing now? It's a very weird, surreal kind of thing. And that happens to me other places as well, but especially there. And so it's a very unnatural state to be in. And so by the time the series ends, you want to talk about egos, I'll be completely messed up by then. I mean, I'll either be I'll either be the player on the ESPN that they're spotlighting a lot during the World Series of Poker, or I'll be doing the commentary for ESPN. That's 12 days, 4 hours a day. And so by the end of all that, of walking around and just being spoiled and having beautiful suites and everything that I end up with, I'll be a little bit messed up, and my wife prefers me to leave for a week to clear my head. I have an appearance at Prince Edward Island, I think, right after the series ends. I'll go up there. Maybe I'll go to the Classico in Miami with an NBA.
So when you're at the series, right? You get a lot of people coming up to you. You get people, coming up to you to say things. How do you end up dealing with a lot of that stuff when it happens consistently?
I mean, I have a saying: if you want to be rich and famous, shut the hell up and sign all the autographs and take all the pictures. And so I do that, except during the series. During the series, if I have a 15-minute break, I have to run to the bathroom and back, or I have to run and get food and back. And you can't stop. Right. And then people are like, oh, Phil's an ass. No, if you run into me in any street, I'll sign all your autographs. I'll take all your pictures. But I can't during the World Series of Poker. That's the one time. And, we have access to the private hallways, 20 or 30 of the top players. So we're mostly back there anyway, negotiating around. But it's a really tough time to like say hello to everybody, because you just want to be focused. I can sign all the autographs, take all the pictures, say hello to everybody, or I can just keep my mindset where it needs to be on winning tournaments, and then deal with the social stuff after the tournament's over or after the series is over.
Yeah, I mean, I think when I saw the Poker Awards, and I brought up a story that I talked about on the podcast before of when I talked to you outside because we were playing basketball. It was late at night, and I told a story on the pod, a couple people, and my friend Adam Altweiss, who used to be the Aria poker room manager a little bit. He said, hey, you should meet Phil. You get him on the podcast. You guys would like each other. So I said, okay, if I ever see him, I'll go talk to him. So then I saw you out there late at night. I was with my buddy George and with I think Dre and one or two other guys. And then I said, I went up to you. I said, hey, what's up, Phil? How's it going? What's up? And nothing. You're shooting hoops, nothing. And I said, on what happens, Mike, what's up? What's going on? How are you doing, man? And nothing. And
did I have my headphones on?
I don't think you had headphones on. No, just outside shooting.
I don't generally just completely ignore people without my headphones on, but most people know that when I'm shooting basketball to leave me alone. The whole poker world knows that. So I kind of like go back there. But if I did that, I apologize. If I had my headphones on, 99% of the time I have my headphones on. So I wouldn't believe your story unless I saw video, because I would never do that. I would always at least nod or something, or do a quick one of these, something like that. Just something that says, hey, I acknowledge you, I see you, boom, let's move on. If I did that, I apologize. But that would probably be rare. Maybe I was like nearing a final table of something.
It was something like that, because I remember I put it on Twitter, and you said, I'm in the zone, kid. I said, because it was getting deep. There was like maybe 18 people left, and I think it was like 18, 15. You're making a deep run. So, but I obviously you got to, for me, that story sticks with me because, I think a lot of people say, you hear about Phil Hellmuth, they say, oh, people say, oh, that's this or that attitude. But then other people and my friends say, he's a nice guy. You should get to know him. You should talk to him. So I think that definitely has stuck with me for a year or two. But I mean, I guess you got to get over it at some point in time. So
I think the interesting thing is this. I think if you asked 20 people on your podcast what they thought of me away from the poker table, the next 20 you did, or the last 20 you did, they would all say that I'm a super nice guy. So I have that reputation amongst the people that know in the poker world. Right. They would. I don't think you'd run into one guy that wouldn't say that. Of the next 40 you did. Now maybe somebody doesn't like me for whatever reason. They have a personal reason or whatever. But I don't dislike anybody on the planet. So yeah, I mean, it's just, but during the series, I'm not great at that. That's my weakness is, and when I'm out playing basketball, I'm just trying to stay focused. And again, I always have my headphones on, which is kind of a sign, maybe you shouldn't talk to me at this second. Let me just focus on shooting. But it's amazing that I can be in the middle of that and just everybody will leave me alone. There'll be literally 400 people back there and I can just shoot baskets in peace. No one says anything. No one bothers me. But if I did that, then I apologize, because that sounds extreme. That's not like me to do that.
I mean, I think it happens because when I go to the series, people come up and talk to me. I imagine it's definitely not on the Phil Hellmuth quite level where you're walking around and I mean, everyone sort of knows from ESPN there, but at the same time, you know, sometimes you're thinking about something else, or you've been playing poker all day and your mind's not in the place to, you know, maybe have a conversation or do this or do that. So I mean, I can definitely understand how something like that comes up, and to you, it's just like, oh, you know, whatever. But I mean, that's sort of what comes with being someone who is well known in the poker world, or well known in any world, is that you're going to meet a lot of people who have seen you and watched you play, or know about you and feel like they know you.
I still want to see. I want to see video if I ever did that, because that does.
You want to see the receipts? Like me. We get Georgie on. Probably there was. George is one of the most honest guys. One of the most honest guys I know, man. George was right there. We talk about that. We talk about that story now, man.
Right. Well, I mean, it's possible I just nodded and then started playing basketball. I mean, whatever. I mean, I guess I don't know. I don't like this because this is not who I am. So I don't like the fact that we're talking about this, because I wouldn't even believe it. But if you say it happened, it happened. It does happen. Probably there's a couple of times where I'm probably just so into, you know, into just thinking about what I'm doing. You know, we're on 15-minute breaks back there, and I just want to be by myself. I have to order food, shoot some. But I apologize if that happened. I doubt that happens more than once or twice per summer. Now, with my headphones on, then I just ignore everybody. But that's kind of like I'm on my 15-minute break, or my, you know, 20-minute break, and I just want to, you know, I'm at an intense table and I just want to stay focused, you know.
Yeah, someone in the chat says, who can win in a one-on-one game, me or Phil? I don't know. Phil's got a little height. He's got a couple inches on me. He got like maybe 2 inches on me, but one-on-one, I mean, you're a little older. I got the speed advantage. I hope I have the fucking speed advantage. What do you think, Phil? One-on-one, who wins?
You have the speed advantage. I think I'd beat you, though. There's only you have to understand, in the whole poker world, there's only about 6 guys that can beat me at horse, at least that have shown their faces back there. So, and I'll play them all for money, but I've learned who I can and can't play. You know, Paul G's, he's somehow this kid just can shoot. There's about 6 guys that can beat me. Now, we're talking one-on-one, so you're going to be able to blow by me for sure. But here's the thing. I'm going to let you have a 3-pointer, and if you blow by me, I'm going to come up and block it from behind. I'm not going to let you just blow by me. I'm not going to let you go straight to the rack. It's one thing, like if you had somebody to pass to, you could blow by me, have a nice assist. So I'm going to be kind of like, but if you can hit a bunch of like 20-footers in a row, then you'll beat me. And then, of course, with my height, I can back you down a little bit left and right. And again, I'm pretty good at shooting when I'm open. So
I don't think you're gonna block me when I drive. I think I got you on this one. You do got. I mean, I think I'm ready, but you do got some size, man. As you mentioned, you can just, when you're a bigger guy, you can just take them to the post pretty easily. You wear your opponent out. You make them tired. You make them work. They got to start following you, and you can just fucking lay. I mean,
you go left, go right. You just kind of give a little space back and forth, and then all of a sudden you go full speed to the right or left. Yeah, it would be a good game, and the bad thing was, I think if we played to 50, you would win.
To 50? What kind of one-on-one games are you playing, kid? To 50? That'd take like
tired.
Yeah, I'd definitely get tired. I gotta run a couple marathons before that to get in the proper condition out there. So Phil, you want to get some shout outs? Anybody might be watching out there, man? You want to say what's up to people?
Not really. Just, you know, no, is that normal thing for you to do the shout outs?
Oh man, I love shout out. They say I give some great shout outs. I give a couple shout outs for good people in the chat. Let me see what we got out there, man. We got Joel Brandenburg. What's up, puppy? What's happening, brother? Too Fat Matt's in the chat. What's up, Too Fat? Zach Wilson's here. My wizard assistant Jonah is right there typing in the chat. Kush Strains out here. Tim F. Shimmer Stockton. What's up, puppy? What's going on, man? Burnsy, London knows about Bulky. Got to shout out to Poker Central, of course. Poker Central. What you think about this, Phil? Poker Central has come out with the app Poker Go, $9.99 a month. What do you think about this this new model being brought into the poker world?
Well, if you put in the affiliate line PHIL Phil, then you'll save 10 or 20%. So that helps everybody out there for Poker Go.
Businessman Phil, get after it, Phil.
I think Poker Go is going to be awesome for poker. Obviously, I mean, you're going to have the ESPN. Every one of your listeners or users is going to have to buy it. So you might as well take down the PHIL code. You're going to need it. You know why? Because if you're watching the main event, and for the first time ever, we're televising almost every single day, 12 days in a row, 4 hours a day. But guess what? After the 4 hours is done, or whatever it is, 6 hours, you're going to have to go to Poker Go to watch live. It'll be the only place on the planet. So just for main event viewing, you're you're going to have to get Poker Go. And there's all the live cash games, all the live streams, 100 of them a year. And so it just seems like if you're into poker, you have to get Poker Go.
So are you going to be playing on these? I had Maurice Kandani on the podcast last Saturday. He talked about the new high stakes cash games, Phil. They're coming back. Everyone's been wanting high stakes poker to come back. He said mixed games, the great game of Pot Limit Omaha, will be being played, as well as Nolan Hold'em. Are you going to be partaking in some of these games, Phil?
Yes, for sure. For me, sometimes in the past, I was so financially conservative that I just didn't play a lot of these televised games. And I realized that I can raise money pretty quickly. So last year I raised a bunch of money, and this year I raised I want to get the number right, $667,222 to play like 7 poker tournaments, including the 300K, both 111Ks in Europe. That's at King's Casino in Rozvadov, which is a Czech Republic, and then the 111K in Vegas, which is next week. So that's just 3 of the events I'm playing. That's 500K right there. And so I raised it in 4 hours. And so it's my second poker fund, and I'm taking like a 15% free roll. But it's just, so now that I realize I can raise so much money so quickly. Also, I've made about $4 million, at least $3 million. I think $4 million for everybody that's had a piece of me lifetime. There's only 2 people lifetime that are loser on me, 2. And yet I've raised $4 million for everybody else. Why? Because I keep people that are losing on until I win. Why? Because I've consistently won every year. And so sometimes if they just keep going, they're gonna get out. So
but so didn't you mention earlier about other people selling action and only having 10% of themselves? It sounds like you're kind of doing the exact same thing you talked about earlier that a lot of other people do to play that.
No, what I'm saying is my point is I don't like the all-time money list to be influenced by people that are playing 30, 100K buy-in tournaments per year with 30 people in them or 25 people in them, where they only have 10, 12% of themselves. Yes, in this case, I might have 25% of myself or whatever it is. That's true, but that's only for 3 events. And if you go back over poker history, I had 100% of myself in a ton of tournaments, 60% of myself in a ton of tournaments. So my numbers on the all-time money list are pretty pure. So, I haven't really not liked the fact that the all-time money list is influenced by a bunch of people playing in high rollers. And I like Fedor a lot, by the way. I really like Fedor. And I think he's very clever, and I think he's great for our game. And he sent me a tweet, which I really like too. I don't have any issues with him, top to bottom, nothing. He sent me a tweet where he said, "Hi, Phil," where he passed me on the all-time money list. Is he 23?
I think he's 22, 23. Yeah, 23.
23 years old, passed me on the all-time money list. And so I'm not complaining about Fedor at all. In fact, I liked the tweet. I thought it was very clever. But it made me realize if someone who's 23 can pass me on the all-time money list, something's out of whack with the all-time money list. That should never happen. And so, Antonio Esfandiari, who I shout out for the positive for, and Daniel Negreanu, shout out to the positive for, but Antonio has $18 million from a $1 million buy-in tournament. So anyway, you've got me off ranting. Let's move on.
I'm going to say some names to some people who tell me what you think about him. So you got Doug Polk. What do you think about Doug Polk? I saw you did a live stream with him when he was I think you guys were out in Pittsburgh, I believe. What do you think about someone like Doug coming up? He's obviously built up this massive audience on YouTube. He's got these rabid fans. He likes to fire some shots at people, which does not make him the most friends sometimes in some circles. So what do you think about somebody like a Doug Polk?
I love this guy. And I wasn't sure what to think about him. Not that I was negative or positive. I wasn't really sure what to think because I heard him, in a beef with, I think, Mercier, who I love too. And then when Doug and I started hanging out in Philly, love this guy. There's nothing but, and we had a long dinner together, spent 3-4 hours talking. I spent kind of a lot of time together that weekend. I was just like, all right, what's not to love? He's doing great stuff for poker. He's doing great stuff for his brand. He's teaching all these people how to play. Seems like a super nice guy. And so, yeah, I love Doug Polk.
So what do
and
you
he's
think
great
about
for
some of
poker.
the Twitch poker guys who stream poker on Twitch, and now they built up these really massive audiences, and they might not always be the best poker players when it comes to results or when it comes to anything like that, but now they're pretty much known amongst many fans in poker, and I think most people sort of will group them together with other well-known poker players.
So
So
I'm
someone
kind
like
of
you
not.
who's had success for 30 years, like, how do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm not a jealous guy at all. Never been jealous. I mean, I'm a little jealous of the money list, but no, I'm really not a jealous guy. And so I think when I see the guys coming on the Twitch streams and crushing it, I just realize it's so great for poker. These guys are doing they're working hard too. They're hard workers. They're bringing tons of new people into the game, and they're just great for our game. So all these massive Twitch streamers are just great for our industry, and they're great for me. And so nothing but positivity.
Yeah, it seems like, from talking with Maury the other day, it seems like there's a lot of pretty cool things in store for poker, especially with the main event coming back to live. It'll be live each of all the days. So it seems like there are a lot of cool things with Poker Central and poker in the works. And it does seem like you are in a position to obviously benefit from that. But so where does your desire and motivation to stick around in poker come from? Because it seems like you could go into business or you could go into some other things. And a lot of other people haven't really stuck around poker, but it seems like you still enjoy playing. You like playing cash games and tournaments. So why do you think that is?
Well, I think the one thing that when I was up and coming and 24, 25 years old, 23, in my 20s, I asked all the top professionals at the time, the Jack Kellers, the TJ Cloutiers, Barry Johnstons, guys like this, Doyle, you know, what's up with this life? What's going on with this life? And Jack Keller hated poker, hated it. And I'm like, what are you doing here playing poker if you hate it? He said, I have to play. I can't make enough money at anything else. And so I said, that'll never happen to me. And I will never hate poker. And I said, I will make enough money by the time I'm 40 where I won't have to work and play poker ever again. It'll just be a choice. And so if you look at me and you look at the last 15 years, I've played less poker tournaments than any other top player. And it's not even close. You could just go to the World Poker Tour list and see of the great tournament players, how many I've played compared to everybody else. What have I played? 70? These guys are all at 200 now or whatever, right? And so I've played less poker than everybody else, excepting during the World Series of Poker. And so it's given me a lot of time off to kind of, build a life outside of poker. And I have a great life. And that's what I mean to say my life is super rich. I mean, I'm sitting with the owners of the Warriors. I'm playing high stakes poker with, the masters of the universe, the people that are literally changing the world, that have made billions of dollars, that game. And a chapter in my book talking about who these guys are, and they've become my best friends, and they've scaled many mountains. They think they can do anything. I think I can do anything, I get to go and raise money for President Clinton and Tiger Woods. And most of the charity events I do, I charge $25,000 for, but I've raised $46 million doing these events. And my life is just full. I'm having a blast. We play poker with our guys once or twice a week. And obviously it was super intense for a couple of months there. You might've written a book in 11 days. My hands still ache. I wrote 145,000 words for Poker Brat, the autobiography. The last 70,000 words I wrote in 2 or 3 months. And so that was so intense, but it was such a nice process.
Right.
And then when it's time to go focus on poker, I spent 14 days in LA working really hard, learning. And then what can I do when I'm in LA? Well, I can call my amazing friends. I called one friend. He is staying in Malibu. He's paying $50,000 a month for rent. Just went and stayed with him. He had a room. He had a whole house full of beautiful women. But
whoa, hey, wife.
I'm good at
Shout out to
that.
the wife.
Yep.
Shout out to
And
the wife.
so it's just I'm just having so much fun. And so I feel like you can have that life. To the players, if you can become good enough at poker, everybody listening can have that life, but it starts with me, with health and family, and then 14 world championships, but it's always health and family first. And I've been given an amazing life, so I forget now. I forgot what your question was, but
It seems like you're big into the self
But I'll say this:
affirmations.
way up, I feel blessed. Way up, I feel blessed. I live the life I deserve.
You just sing this thing. You sing the song like 10 times a day. You walking around singing it. I mean, the phone rings. It's the ringtone, right? It comes up on the phone.
Well, you figure out, you have to figure out, like when you're rapping these raps, you have to figure out which ones you're good at and which ones you're not. So that one, I feel like that's one of my better ones. So that's easy to pull up on the mic. It adds positivity to the room. Imagine I'm in a room with 300 people, 400 people, and I'm rapping and I start singing that song. It adds energy and positivity to the room. I like that. You want me to do a Jay-Z one?
What you got? Let's hear it.
All right.
Kenny, which one's it going to be?
I'm in Boeing Jets, Global Express, at the country with the blueberry still connects, on a yacht, got a triple deck, but I'm young with the beep. Do you expect grand opening, grand closing?
Dare I say GTO or GTNO? What do you guys think, chat? GTO or GTNO? You guys got to tell me what you think, man. I'm curious what they're thinking out there, man. We got a lot of comments out there, Phil. We got a lot of question people out there. A common question, Phil, people are asking about with the Ultimate Bet just issued the refunds to people. By the way, guys, if you did that, you didn't submit that, you can check your email. You should have got an email about that. Obviously, you work closely with Ultimate Bet over the years. You were one of the main spokesmen for the site.
Yep.
You know, what's kind of your take on what's happened with things and finally these refunds going out?
Well, I wrote a great chapter, 5,000 words in my book about Ultimate Bet. And that book's going to be out, I think, well, August 1st is the official time. Sheryl Sandberg's throwing me a party, which is amazing, you know, the Facebook COO. And for that launch. But the Ultimate Bet, to me, having that refund, which came out of thin air, that could never have happened. I mean, what are the chances that the government says, hey, we're going to pay back all of the people from AP and Ultimate Bet? It had to be 300 to 1. What happened? Oh, well, we had $500 million in extra money that we couldn't give back to all the Full Tilt customers. We're just going to give it now to Ultimate Bet and Absolute Poker. So for me, that was great. I felt that was 99.9% clear from the Ultimate Bet stuff, especially in 13 when those tapes came out. They had tapes of people that said, hey, Phil knew nothing about this. I mean, they had discussions. So from that point onward, I think everybody knew that I didn't have anything to do with that. And that was nice. So I felt that was 99.9% clear. I still felt bad. And I'd left the site 5-6 months before Black Friday. So no one ever came to me. I was never really bothered too much. But I took a lot of heat from Ultimate Bet, a lot of heat. And I mean, a lot of people saying really negative, nasty stuff to me. I've lived my life, I feel, almost perfectly, you know, never cheated on my wife. You know, you look back, you talk about poker history. Do I have any people I haven't paid back? Any, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. You look back at poker history. I have a perfect reputation. And so that hurt. And for a week, it really bothered me. And I'm like, fuck, here I'm doing everything right. And now my reputation's getting crushed. And I just decided, screw it. You're just going to walk around with your head held high because you didn't do anything wrong. But what I didn't know is it was going to take 4 more years for this evidence to come out. So I felt 99.9% good about this already anyway. And then having all the money refunded, it's now 100%. So I feel that was a good day for me. And I had to go back and edit the chapter because I'd submitted the book already. And I'm like, wait a minute, they just refunded all the money. I get to write that in the book too. Yeah, I would say that most of the people at Ultimate Bet, literally 99%, were good people. But we had 1 or 2 bad people in there.
Right. I mean, you can understand why people would be upset with you because you're the face of the company. You're wearing, you know, Ultimate Bet branding everywhere, and that's a lot of. I mean, I'm not sure how much hundreds of millions of dollars were taken away from players, and they had the super user scandal, and there's so much things that sort of went down with that you can understand why they're like, who else are they going to really put it on, right?
Yes, exactly. But listen, let's talk about this. Let's get a little bit deeper. So when guess who initiated the investigation? I initiated the investigation, okay? And everybody knows that's the case. All you have to do is ask around a few questions. I initiated that investigation. I told them to do it. They said no. I went back and I said, if you don't do it, I'm just going to leave the site. And I said, because whether these allegations are true, and I didn't think they were true at the time, it still is looking really bad for us in all the public forums. And so I initiated that investigation, and I don't want to be misquoted, it's 23 to $27 million was paid back. I stayed at the site. So everybody said to me, I couldn't win. If I left the site, everyone would say, why did you leave that fucking site? Why did you represent them? If you stay, they say, why did you stay and take their money? I stayed because I watched Doyle Brunson get hammered when he was involved with the site that didn't pay all their customers back. And I said, at least I don't want to be bothered for life. I'm going to stay with Ultimate Bet until everything's paid back. Everything was paid back. 23 to $27 million was paid back. Then I left the site 5 months before, so it's hard. No one really came to me afterwards and said, I mean, some people came and said I was at the site because of you. I said, well, I left 5 months before that. That was a sign maybe. And by the way, I talk about it in the book. I was about to sign a huge deal with Full Tilt the next week after Black Friday, because you know what? The Full Tilt guys, they were all the poker players, and they knew that I was a good guy, and so they were going to pay me a massive amount of money to represent them, and I was going to sign a contract for God knows what it'd have been worth if, $30 million, $100 million. I was coming on board with them a week later. And we'd just done a USO tour. I just landed from the USO tour, the only poker USO tour ever in 2011. And then all of a sudden I see, it almost felt like a personal betrayal. I'm like, we go and do this USO tour, and all of a sudden they shut down online poker in the US. Of course it wasn't. I mean, these are two separate branches of government. So you can ask me any questions about Ultimate Bet. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think just a lot of people kind of wonder, and I mean, I know I wonder myself, and you think about this with Full Tilt, it's just how can someone like yourself that's so close to everyone, the founders, like Russ Hamilton, how can someone like you seems very much invested financially and personally in Ultimate Bet, how can you not understand or know some cheating or this or that's happening, especially when Russ was so close to that? And I think, I don't know if this is allegedly or if it's confirmed, but he was partaking in this too, in terms of playing on these other screen names and giving out this super user software to people to use. I think a lot of people just say, how does Phil not know? It seems like Phil is a smart guy. It seems like he's asking questions.
That's not even worth answering. No one ever said that. So basically you're having a few people say that in the chat. No one ever thought that's I mean, how in the world would you know? I mean, I play the site at home. I'm supposed to know that no one's ever even asked me that before. I don't think that, I don't even think it makes sense. How would I know? I mean, I'm not an insider. I mean, I went to Costa Rica twice in my life. I did help those guys build it in Portland. But how would I know, and I don't mention any names in my book either, how would I know that someone is cheating? I mean, how would you know? I knew that I was having a lot of problems beating those no limit games on the site. And, that was tough. I mean, they were playing a lot of pots, and I just assumed, I mean, these guys have figured something out about how to play a lot of hands and win. But I think you can ask a better question than that one.
I mean, I think that's something that's been brought up over time, over the years. And I mean, I feel like this subject is, this was 10 years ago, this would be a more current one to really talk about. But in terms of, really keeping up with it, it's something I think a lot of poker players, for better or worse, they have it in their memory, but it's not something that's on a lot of people's minds. It's sort of, it happened. Eventually, I think you sort of have to move on. I think it stays with people in their mind when they think about online poker and they say, well, I don't maybe want to play online poker because there are these cheating that's happened before. And is my money safe? Is it going to get taken? And all that kind of stuff. So I just think long term, it definitely does leave a pretty bad mark on poker world in general.
Yeah. I mean, it left a bad mark on me, and I felt like I feel like I didn't really deserve that. I mean, to have someone's integrity questioned, and honor questioned. At the same time, I didn't blame people. I understood. All right, listen, you're the face of the site. Something happened, but then all that money was paid back. So I felt pretty good at that point about it. I also hated, I mean, people say that it costs them money. And it cost me more money than anybody else, but that's neither here nor there. I had money. I think some of the people that got hurt, might have had their whole $50,000 to their name online.
For sure. I mean, I think a lot of people, I knew players who had most of their money online, and especially Full Tilt or Ultimate Bet, they had their money on there. The site went down. Now they got no money. What are they going to do? And I'm sure that's caused all sort of, I mean, heart, whatever, you could talk about this either way. Obviously, as you say, both sides are going to suffer from something like this. And
I don't ever mind discussing it, but I just want, I think people forget things. People say, I think if you have a discussion about this, I just want it to be the full story. That's
right.
All. I think the full story. And I think I've made my point.
It's an important topic. I think it's something that a lot of people always talk about, always wonder about, always ask questions about. So I think that's why so many people are anxious for it to get brought up.
Yeah.
So let me see some else we got in the chat here, boys. No, I mean, I kind of want to let you, Phil. It seems like have you ever not worn a hat on anything? I've never seen you not in the PH hat, the Aria hat, the UB hat, a Golden State Warrior. I don't know if I've ever seen you not wearing a hat, man.
No, I have some pictures. There's some pictures of me from the Kentucky Derby without wearing a hat. Because, we have a tux on. I guess a tuxedo is enough to make me take my hat off. Or my wife will tell me, honey, I want you to take your hat off. She'll be like, honey, I want you to take your hat off. Now, I had my hair cut pretty short, but I never had to wear a hat because of baldness. Although I'm starting to get a little thin up here, and I'm starting to get a little something up here that my dad had. But I mean, I started wearing a hat basically, because I had a lot of brands that wanted me to represent them. We have the Kimosabi Mezcal, which sometimes I do a shot on my stream. And we were the official spirit of South by Southwest. It's fun to just watch this brand explode. And, the millennials love the Mezcal. There's kind of my Phil Hellmuth chip logo. Right, I used to have 14 on the side, but now I have, 3-bet clothing, which I'm wearing.
You are a branding expert, sir. I got to say, man, you get out there, you rock the sponsors, you rock the personal brand, and I'm sure they're paying you well, so it seems pretty optimal to do that. I mean, I don't know. It seems like a good strat to take.
Yeah, it's been nice to have sponsors, and I think Aria has been amazing for me. They've been amazing. I feel like since 2008, and when online poker went away, there just weren't very many people that had deals with casinos. I mean, Daniel had the best deal in the game with Poker Stars financially, but Aria is a very swanky hotel, great brand. It's where I'll see Michael Jordan drinking if he comes to Vegas. I was playing blackjack with him. I was playing blackjack with Barkley here. I mean, some of the NASCAR superstars. And so it's kind of a place where I think a lot of the biggest celebs come, specifically the high limit bar. I mean, the drinks are so expensive. Who can afford to drink them, They have shots, $3,000 shots down there,
Jesus. Do you have a craziest celebrity story that you've had, that an experience you've had, whether it's potentially a degen story or it's a fun story or it's a in-line, out-of-line, anything come to mind?
I have a million stories. Some I can't tell. I mean, literally a million stories. There is one that's kind of, it's not great, but it's weird, and it'll tie into my ego. So I'll give you this one. So I was at the Aria, saw MJ on a Friday. Then I played the Heads Up tournament a few years ago, and I made it down to the final 8, and I busted out. So I guess officially 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. Came back to the Aria exhausted. It was a Sunday, and I told my wife it was just a very weird thing. I wanted a specific food. I wanted food from Javier's.
Great place.
So Javier's is a great Mexican place. But I love the food at the Aria. I mean, it's world-class food. But that's the one place room service won't deliver. So I said, all right, I'm going to get some, I'm going to go get it myself. And I said, and right before I left, I said, I have a weird feeling I'm going to run into MJ. It's weird. You can't predict. I mean, it's a weird thing to even say. I knew he was in the hotel. I go down to Javier's. I did stop by High Limit Bar on the way down there. Didn't see him. Went to Javier's. I did ask if he was at the restaurant because it was just a weird thing to say. Grabbed my food, left, and I decided at the last second I'm going to walk up the escalators because it's equidistant whether you take the escalators back to the VIP elevators. So I take the escalator and I'm moving 90 miles an hour. That's what in Vegas I walk super fast, and always have my headphones on, slammed. If I slow down, then sometimes autograph lines form, and that's fine. I'll sign them all, and then but sometimes it's 20 minutes in an autograph line or whatever, which is great. I love it. But I move fast, and I'm walking fast, and sure enough, boom, I turn off the escalator. There's MJ. He's with Pops, this guy who's like 80 something, and they're walking about 2 miles an hour. I mean, like this. And I'm coming up fast. And at the last second, I said, screw it, I'm not going to bother him. Slam my sunglasses on and just boom. Because I'm walking up to talk to him, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to leave him alone.
You big time Michael Jordan?
No, not at all. Michael Jordan is so big, he doesn't want to be bothered all the time. I was trying to give him space, you know. I'm like, I don't want to come slamming up and just start talking, running up behind him and start talking to him, you know. I mean, it's just like, it's not, you know, it was the opposite of big time. I'm like giving him space. But I glance over, say, nice to see you. And boom, I hit the turn. So if you know the aria, you know that John George's Steakhouse is. There's the elevators are up there, the VIP elevators. So I take a left, and I'm moving 90 miles an hour, and I go to open the VIP door, and I glance back, and MJ should just be turning the corner, but now he's run to catch up with me. And I'm like, wow. And I know Pops is like an 85, and it's obvious he's run to catch up with me. And so I'm like, wow. And so I said, hey, MJ, congratulations on your wedding. Phil, how's it going? Blah, 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 blah. We talked for 5 or 10 minutes. We happened to get in the same elevator on the way up. We're joking, laughing the whole time. It was really nice few minutes for me. And then I thought, wow, I'm cool. I'm bad. I'm Phil Hellmuth, you know what I mean? And so then the next morning I got up, and there was a message from one of my friends who said Obama's in the neighborhood back in Palo Alto, and he's asking how you're doing at the World Series of Poker. And I'm like, Obama knows me. Now I know that he met Daniel and Ivy and knows poker, and I know he's a poker player, but I'm like, I'm the man, you know. And it was like 3 weeks before that I was emceeing Tiger Jam, so I'm like, I'm a badass. I'm hanging out with all the world celebrities. All I wanted to do for 4 days was tell everybody that about Obama and MJ, you know, for the next 4 days, and I played like shit. Meanwhile, I think that I hit 99 cashes. And so I was like a fucking egomaniac running around, just, you know, and just had no sense at all, and played poker like shit for like a week. And I think I finished the whole series. I think maybe I'm wrong about the 99 cashes, but I think I didn't cash for a week. And it was all ego. And I laugh at myself looking back, and I'm like, okay, Phil thinks he's, when I start thinking I'm really cool, then I'm not paying attention to poker. It's really bad for me. And so I laugh at the ego explosion that I had then, and, you know, and it's me, and, you know, it's doing the best I can. And so I've progressed a lot since then. And hopefully I won't go crazy like that again.
We got receipts for this one, Phil?
Receipts?
Receipt, you know the receipts. You asked earlier for some receipts. I'm gonna take my one time to ask for some. You got receipts on this one, man. It's a great story. You got a picture? You got anything like that? What? You got a picture with him?
Oh, no. But I've hung out with MJ several times in the past. I don't know if we have pictures or not.
You guys ever play poker together?
No. You know, this is stupid of me. He challenged me to play him heads up Badoogie for 20,000, and I said no.
How could you say? How do you say no, Phil? How do you not say let's call?
I'm just telling you, this is what happened. It was so stupid of me. I don't know what I was thinking. Of course, MJ, let's go gamble and have fun. But no, I mean, I was just like, I don't know. I think I somehow in my mind, I didn't want to look like a hustler, and you know, and it's just like, I don't know. It was just the wrong answer. That was, you know. And so when I did see him on the elevator, I said, by the way, if you want to play Badoogie sometime, we can play. And then he said no.
Is there anybody that you really want to meet or you want to get in touch with that you haven't met before?
There was somebody. I've not met Obama in person, so I was really hoping to play poker with him at the White House. And I was talking to President Clinton, and he was telling me that there's a White House chip set. But Clinton brought his own chips to the White House, he said. But, you know, yeah, he did. And so I think it would have been an amazing experience to play poker with Obama at the White House. So maybe Obama's one. It's amazing how I've met so many of the people that I've already wanted to meet in life. It's crazy. You know, I was really flattered when I saw Jay-Z last year, and you know, and I'm a big fan of his. And he looked all lit up to see me. We have a nice picture of that.
It's definitely pretty cool, man. It's definitely, I mean, you're in a unique position to have these sort of experiences that I think a lot of people out there certainly dream that they can have, and they can meet these certain people and meet their people that they consume their music or their movies, or they look up to them as people of the world. So, I mean, yeah, I think that is definitely a very unique experience that you get to have. It sounds like pretty often.
Yeah, I mean, I met Drake recently. He was fun. You know, we hit it off well. He gave me his number, but to be fair, he only texted me once. But I have this rule where I text somebody like 3 times, and then I just stop and never text them again.
If they don't text you back?
I think 3 times is enough. Probably I've been talked into extending it to 4 or 5 sometimes. But if you're just going to reach out to somebody, and there's a time where there's a number where if somebody doesn't get back to you, they're just not interested, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's like 2 or 3. If you hit up someone twice, I mean, one time they might be busy, second time okay, but the third time, I think
you have to give them 3. I mean, I have some busy friends, but I mean, usually sometimes when it's 3, I'll just say, all right, I'm just not going to text this person again unless it's business related, you know, or whatever.
Right. Do you got a lot of business related type of things going on outside of poker?
It's been fun, you know. I mean, it's been fun to watch. You know, Poker Night in America has been one. We have this new app called Blitzpick that Brett Ritchie's doing. Blitzpick has been a lot of fun. Watching him, I think he's going to run it up. And you know, I mean, that's if you're into fantasy sports. You can go to Blitzpick. You can put in, you can say, I want to bet 300 units tonight at one of the fantasy sports sites. I want 50% LeBron James and 20% Kyrie Irving, and then they'll randomly fill out the other 30%. And all you have to do is press a button, and you'll have 300 bets. And
I know you wouldn't pick those guys, Phil. You can't pick Cavaliers, man. Cavaliers and Warriors are going to be playing soon.
Oh, I'm not picking anything. I'm just saying. I'm just saying that you know, and so I mean, the business stuff has been fun. 3Bet clothing, Aria. Kimosabi Mezcal it's just been fun to watch that just kind of blow up, you know.
So what kind of alcohol is that? Because I don't know what kind of alcohol that is.
Mezcal is basically, think of tequila.
Okay.
It's like champagne, except you can't call it champagne. So this is like tequila, except you can't call it tequila. So mezcal is it's rich. It's not smooth. It's meant to be really rich. So you can have it a margarita. Ooh. We won the American Distillery Awards 2 years in a row, this time in best of class for all tequilas and mezcals. And that's pretty baller. I think we're in 15 states now, 20 states. Official spirit of South by Southwest. That one's been fun. And so basically that's all I drink now is Kimosabi Mezcal, straight up. And
what about the Dom? You don't drink Dom anymore? Weren't you always talking about that?
Stopped drinking Dom about 5 years ago. Just realized the taste. I mean, I for like 6 years, that's all I drank was Dom. You know, but I think I was living in the persona a little bit, realized I don't really love the flavor of it. So.
Well, shout out to Mezcal, correct? That's what it's called, Mezcal?
Yeah, the Kimosabi Mezcal is fun because it doesn't seem like I get a hangover if I usually don't drink too much anyway, but that seems pretty safe.
Well, I'm sure some people out there will check it out. I know if I see it in a store, I don't drink too much tequila. I'm more of a whiskey kind of guy right now. So I'm kind of transitioning out of my margarita and kind of phase of my life. And I'm trying to do the whiskey thing. So we'll see.
It's amazing how we go on alcohol phases, right?
It is pretty weird. Yeah, I agree. I don't know why it happened. I think because like when you grow up, tequila is it's like a college drink, or you drink tequila, everyone gets fucking wasted on tequila. They're throwing up, and all the men, like you hear men talking about, you got to drink a scotch, drink a whiskey straight up, drink this straight up. And I think it can certainly play with your mind a little bit. And I think, you know, I tried whiskey for the first time, Jack and Coke, and then I started drinking it straight up. And then you meet other guys, they're like, oh man, real man's man.
I did Jack and Coke back in the day. And then all of a sudden, it was straight to Dom. And then all of a sudden it was straight to scotches. And I started doing tequilas, and then the mezcal brand came by, and I just loved it and got involved there.
What do you mix it with?
I drink it straight up. So I'll have one ice cube and just Kimosabi mezcal. It's great for margaritas because it adds a little bit of a flavor, bitterness. It's good.
Does Javier sell it, or does Javier's have mezcal there?
Yes, Javier's has it.
All right, cool. I'm gonna get that in. I love Javier's. They got such good food in there. I mean, as you mentioned, the Aria restaurant.
I ate there yesterday. Javier's. I love that place.
They're the food there. The food at the Aria is awesome, man. It really is good. The cafe, obviously, that's open all night. If you're a degenerate like me who plays poker late at night, you go there. The Aria Circle Bar, that's like a place to stay for when you're in summer and you want to meet up with people and kind of chat and just hang out there after you lose a bunch of money or win a bunch of money. So
they have John George's Steakhouse, which I love. I'm there quite often. They have the Thai place, which is great. And a lot of the poker world eats Thai food, it seems like these days. I mean, when you're playing poker at the Aria, you just send somebody over to get food for you. It's beautiful.
Send someone over to get food. I think I walk over to get food now. If I need a person, Jonah, you're getting food for now on, man. I'm sending you. I'm kidding. I can't send you over to get food here. We'll take a couple more questions and then we'll let Phil go on with the tournament. You said you're playing 10K today, Phil?
10K RA today. Yep, looking forward to it.
What else you got? You got anything else coming up before Super High Roller Bowl on Sunday?
So I budgeted $100,000 for cash games in that fund that I was telling you that I raised earlier. So I don't know what I'm going to use it for, but I may play 1,000, 2,000, or 15-3 at the Bellagio is kind of the plan. But if I don't get more rest, I won't play. I've been really tired the last few days. Partying with Daniel and Mark Cuban takes a little bit out of you,
I don't know, man. Listen, I seen Daniel at a nightclub, man. He wasn't getting after it that hard, man. I was a little disappointed. We went out after Poker Awards. We went out to Hyde. Shout out to Poker Central guys. Shout out to Sam. Shout out to Rich. And he was just, man. I mean, but also he was talking to a certain somebody. I don't know whatever. I don't know what was happening there, but I was expecting him to be dancing, Phil. I didn't expect him to be sitting there having a conversation in a loud nightclub the entire time. So
I was dancing.
I believe it, man. I've seen the moves, kid. I've seen you move around a little bit. You got a little dance going on with you.
I'm claiming I'm 74th percentile dancer, which is good, but that's not saying much considering most guys are 0 to 30 and can't do anything.
Bang bang. I think that's true. Phil, do you play the great game of Pot in Omaha?
I do like PLO. Yeah.
Great game, man.
Do you wish hard at that too?
Oh, what kind of stuff do you do to work at your PLO game?
Well, for me, it's about discussing it with the best players in the world. So fortunately, the best players in the world have always come to me about hold'em hands for 15 years. I mean, just all the time. And it's amazing how I can't help them because a lot of times it's what was your read? This is what I did. These days, the math guys will say, well, you should do that or you should do this. But for me, it was always, but I would help them. I'd be like, all right, if you read them for this, then you should do that. If you read them for that, then you should do this. And so if I ever ask anybody, any great players about strategy, they always share with me and they always figure it's going to be a quid pro quo. So, and I have access to the best players in the world in every game. So I haven't done enough work on PLO lately, though. I worked pretty hard a couple of years. I figured that's a really good game to win bracelets in. Jason Mercier is doing something no one else is doing at
What's
PLO.
That?
I don't know exactly, but he keeps getting down in all these PLO tournaments. And so he's doing something. Whenever you see someone getting deep in tournaments more often than everybody else, okay, you can say, oh, well, part of it's variance.
Right.
But at some point you have to say, wow, what is he doing? And so Mercier has that at PLO to me. And you look back over the last 6 years at WSOP PLO tournaments, and he's had a ton of high finishes. He's doing something that the world hasn't figured out yet.
I think I'm going to win a PLO bracelet this summer, Phil. I'm calling it right now. It's either going to be in the 10K or the 3K 6 max. It's going to be one of those two. Probably be the 25K because that is very deep. And 4 days, I mean, I get a little tired from playing these long tournament days. I never really play tournaments. So, but I'm calling it now, Phil. I'm going to win one bracelet.
Even the 25K, you're deep, but I lasted 12 minutes one year. In that thing.
Okay, how is that possible? You start off 500 big blinds deep. How can you possibly last 12 minutes in that tournament?
I signed up late, number one.
Okay.
Number two, Someone raised. I smooth called with aces because what's the use in when you're that deep? Why re-raise with just aces and PLO? So I smooth called. Some amateur decided to re-raise, a bad amateur, and then the Russian pro
Northern European amateur most likely, because those guys love pot limit Omaha too much. They love it.
And the Russian pro studied for 3 minutes and decided he had kings and queens double suited. He decided he was going to re-raise, and then it got back to me, and I just even still after all those raises, we were so deep I couldn't get all my chips in. I could only make it half of my stack or something. And then the bad amateur decided to play his ace three, whatever it was, 9-8. And then the Russian pro's like, I don't know, give me a good Russian word. Yeah, exactly like that. Say that when I go like this. Say it now. Exactly. He's all in for God knows why. I mean, why wouldn't you just, like, you could even take a flop. And so I'm like, all right, mount up, let's go. So I'm going to triple up, and I'll never forget. I think it was Jeff Lissandro saying these idiots just keep giving Phil their money, like, and the flop came down 10, 3 deuce or something with my suit, and the other guy had kings and queens of the other suit, and then the turn was an ace, and Lissandro said these idiots just keep giving Phil their money. But I was watching. I'm like, motherfucker. Now this guy picked up a flush draw. He needs a jack or a diamond to beat me. This couldn't come. And sure enough, a diamond came. And just as Lissandro was whining about how they all give me the chips, the river was the offsuit diamond for the Russian. And I'm just like, what the fuck? And at that point, I really felt like I would make it all the way down to the final table just with the triple up. You know, my PLO game's off a little bit the last year or two, but then it wasn't.
Yeah. That's what the great game of pot limit Omaha can do to you sometimes, Phil. It can be good to you, it can be bad to you, but it's so much fun. I mean, it's been my primary game now for the past maybe 6 years after I switched from Hold'em PLO. And yeah, I love the game, man. But obviously situations like that happen. You get all in with aces pre-flop and you're against king, king, queen, queen. You're against ace 9, 3-8 from some fucking, I mean, I believe me, the guy, they are idiots. That is true. The people that play PLO, they sometimes do some idiot plays. And then you realize your equity isn't even that strong in that spot. You're barely a favorite, if that, throwing three-way with aces. And you're like, fuck, man.
Or you finally get aces and somebody else has aces and you're both chip leaders. And you happen to have the ace jack 9 suited and they have the ace 10-3, but they somehow make 10s and 3s. That happens.
Yeah, that's tilting. That's one of the very, 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 very tilting thing about pot limit Omaha is when they both have aces and the motherfucking guy who runs so fucking good against you never fucking lose against you, Phil. He gets there with 10s and 3s and you're like, what the fuck, man? How is this guy finally get aces against this kid? Ace jack 9 double suited. This motherfucker gets there with ace 10-3 single suit. I mean, believe me, I you know, when you say you tilt, I mean, I may have some verbal outburst tilts in my career, of course, and especially playing online, there might be some fucking slamming down here and breaking mouses and stuff like that. I'm bringing back memories, Phil. Bringing back some good memories for me, man. So
it's just not fun when they're drawn to a 3 with 1 to come or whatever.
You're only drawn to a chop. So that's very true, man. All right, guys, couple more questions. Where I let Phil go, man. Phil, you excited about this 300 high rollerball, man? I mean, last year you went deep, 4th place. It's going to be televised. Some of the best players in the world. I mean, I'm personally super excited for the event, and I would imagine that you feel like this is your time. You've been working, and now you get to showcase some of that talent out there.
Yeah, the 300K is a great event, and I think I'm ready. So finishing 4th last year, I mean, I think I don't get to play very many high rollers because I don't travel the globe. We've already had this discussion. But I played in the $1 million buy-in, and I think I finished 4th a few years ago. And then I played the 111K 2 years ago, and I had a massive chip lead and blew it at the final table for 7th. But I tend to do well on these events where you start really deep, and yet you kind of move it a little bit faster. I tend to do really well in these events because the other thing is, you know, everybody at the table, right? And I think I do well against people. People sometimes say, oh, well, Phil's great at playing against all the amateurs.
Right.
But, you know, you can't win all those bracelets in the past by just doing that. So I like it when I know everybody at the table, what they're doing, what they're thinking. And And so I think it's a very exciting event, and you know, and I think my strategy is going to be a really good strategy for this. And you know, you probably need. I think last year, I think I made it for 2.5 days, and I finally had to have jacks hold up against ace 8 offsuit. And then after that, it seems like it was pretty, you know, pretty smooth sailing.
That's what I was just going to say. Jonah in the chat says, if you go to my Instagram page, you put a link in here. If you go to the last Phil Hellmuth picture, we put a Phil Hellmuth infographic up there, one of my favorite Phil Hellmuth quotes. You tell us what your favorite Phil Hellmuth quote is from the podcast or just lifetime, and we're going to give away a copy of my book on there. Shout out to Jonah. Jonah, you got a question for Phil? You want to ask that one you just said in the chat? If it weren't for luck, you want to ask him about the luck thing? You want to ask him? Jonah, he loves this quote, man. You want to ask him about? Okay, Jonah's got a question. I let him ask everyone a question. He's stuck in courts. Come on, Poppy. What are you doing? Live. Come on. Give Phil a question. Give him a good one.
All right, Phil, 2 questions. Question number 1, if luck weren't involved, how many bracelets would you actually have? And second question, what are like your goals right now in life and in poker coming up? Now that you've accomplished so much and you're living a great life, any sort of goals that you set for
those are
yourself?
good questions. Good questions. Well thought out.
Thank you.
If it weren't for luck, I'd win them all is a great quote of mine. I don't know. I mean, I know there's a bunch of times, there's a lot of events where I've been really deep and over my lifetime. And I mean, they're just handing me the money. It's my queens against their ace 3. I mean, just tons of tournaments where I have ace king and they decide to go with ace jack. It's never reverse. And so I don't know. I mean, I don't know how to answer that. But as far as goals go, I need Poker Brat, my autobiography, to hit the New York Times bestseller list. That's a goal. My last book, Play Poker Like the Pros, did hit the bestseller list, so I have a good chance. Number 2, I want to write, and I think of my goals in yearly stretches. So I have my goals for 2017. I want to write Positivity, my next book, and get that out. I don't think before Christmas, because I think having one book come out August 1st and then another one coming out before Christmas is a little much, but I may choose that route. 2 books in 1 year sounds good. Positivity, I think, will help tens of millions of people. You know, positivity, we're all in the right place at the right time. That's the title. The hashtag, positivity in all caps, we're all in the right place at the right time. You know, one chapter is Hate Hurts You. And I talk a three-step method on how to get rid of hate. So this is going to be important because I can influence the world. I already think that I've been inspirational to tens of millions of people that have watched me play poker like they can only dream of playing. So I've inspired people by making great folds, great calls. And now I have a chance to really influence the world with positivity. Other goals, I'd like to sign a deal with a site at some point, whether that's PokerStars or Zynga. Those are 2 of the candidates right now. Maybe Mike Sexton at Party Poker will come hire me. It makes sense that I do that, but that's a difficult one in the sense that it's going to require a lot of work on my part, and my life is already pretty full. Let's see, any other goals? Obviously, I want to get, well, I shouldn't say obviously, most people don't know what my goals are. I want 24 bracelets lifetime. That's been a goal of mine. At least 24. 24 is a good goal to shoot at, and then maybe overshoot and have 30 bracelets. So that would mean hopefully 2 bracelets this year. Maybe 3 bracelets this year would be amazing because we have a lot of events also in Czech Republic. And then other goals, I want to make sure that I want to make sure that I get time with my friends. And that's never been on my goal sheet before until this year. I actually have really close friends now, and that's been nice for me. And then it's important for me to keep growing in therapy through my wife, improving.
I like that. It's a really good set of goals. Very good list. Nice question, Jonah. As always, we let Jonah come in here and ask some questions. Sometimes he's always got some good things on on his mind over here. So when you think about, you mentioned having good friends, is this like have you had those sort of really close relationships before in the past, or do you feel like now you're at a different point of relationships with your friends and you're sort of trying to learn, okay, well then, how do I do this in my life, having these really good friends that I want to spend more time when I also have so many other things that I want to spend time doing as well?
It's interesting. I wasn't ready for good friends when I was 45. And so I didn't have friends when I was, I had the poker world, right? I mean, there are guys I would hang out in the poker world. John Benetti used to be a friend of mine. We'd hang out a lot. Lane Flack, I'd try to get some time with Negreanu. And so, kind of these guys were, kind of my friends from the poker world. But then I'd go home and we wouldn't talk very often. And so there'd be this huge disconnect. And maybe they weren't ready to share with me as deeply as I was ready to share with them. Maybe I wasn't willing to share as deeply as I could have back then. And so I felt like I didn't have any friends. I felt like I didn't have any really close friends all the way until I was maybe 46, 47. And then all of a sudden, Chamath Palihapitiya came up to me with Dave Goldberg. And they said, hey, we live in Palo Alto. We play poker. 5-10 blinds, mind-numbingly boring stakes for me at the time, and obviously now too. But it's hard to play mind-numbingly boring because, and I don't mean, I'm not trying to seem like a big time. It's just like for you folks at home trying to relate to that. If you go to the golf course and you play for $50 a hole all the time, when you play for one, you're not going to be trying hard. It's just a fact. It's just normal. Anybody can relate. And any poker player knows this. When you step way down in stakes, you can't play as good. Barry Greenstein says he can, but most of us admit we can't. But anyway, from that point forward, I started hanging out with Chamath and Goldie and Bill Lee and it kind of like this whole Masters of the Universe group that we started hanging out with. Bill Gurley, Jason Kalkanis. Gurley was VC of the year last year. And so I started hanging out with these guys and just like found friendship, especially Chamath and I and Billy and I have become great friends. And so I'm hanging out with their young families all the time. I love hanging out with their kids, I like going over and so it's nice. And so I didn't understand what friendship was, until Chamath lost his father, and we lost Goldie a couple years ago, and I kind of then understood. And so with my friends, I can go and share my deepest fears or my deepest, maybe something's gone wrong in my life, and I can bring positivity to their lives. And so I understand the importance of having great friends. And so when I'm home, I'm always making an effort to go over to Chamath or to go over to Billy's and hang out. And we're always playing poker once or twice a week. And that's, 6 hours of just the guys. And so, yeah, friendships is something which I never quite got until the last couple of years.
It's pretty cool to hear, because I think a lot of people that I know in poker, you have poker friends, and some people only have poker friends. And once they want to expand their horizons outside of poker, they start to realize, well, how good are some of these friends I have? So then you start to really realize, well, I've been so consumed by maybe poker that I don't really even know what friendship means. And I think when you start to figure out what friendship means, you realize, wow, it's quite different than maybe what I had with poker friends in the past. So yeah, it's like a whole sort of new little box you can open up.
Yeah.
And
it's interesting, Joey. There's a lot of people are really good at friends. Well, my sister, one of my sisters is great at it. A lot of people are really good at friends coming out of their 20s. I just never really figured it out until my late 40s. So those of you that don't have close friends out there, and don't have, people that you can depend upon that are listening to this, it can get better, and it can get better in your 40s. For me, it was all about poker. It was all about family, poker, and my business. And now it's nice to have friends in there.
I think like poker is such a selfish game where you sort of survive, and the more you put in, the more time you play, the more you sort of disconnect yourself from the world, the better you do. So to become great at poker, for myself personally, you have to be, for me, I didn't see it any other way. You had to be selfish. So the more you start caring about outside things, the more you start wanting to see people and spend time with them, the less you take away from your focus on poker and from the amount of time you're playing poker. So I think it makes a ton of sense why maybe poker players aren't necessarily that good of friends sometimes. And also just because it is that selfish thing, and you got to reprogram your brain. Like, okay, I've been selfish and I've succeeded. Well, then, okay, how do I become not selfish and in this other thing to succeed at that?
For the young poker players out there that are listening to this, balance. And everybody was talking about how I had great balance in 2010. And I felt like I had great balance compared to the poker world, but now my balance is even better. Phil Hellmuth 2017, the balance is amazing, right? I get to really, and you know, the one thing that if you're a young poker player, the balance is key. And also I think the one thing that most of us enjoy who play professionally is the fact we can sleep in every day. And so that hasn't changed for me. Basically, I mean, now I have to get up 20, 30% of the time. And during the series, obviously, I'm going to have to be up some days. But sleeping in every day keeps you young, I think.
Sleeping in keeps me young. I don't know, man. I feel like it keeps me young. That's why I work so hard at poker back. I want to sleep in. I'm not trying to wake up early back. You know what I mean? I know you don't want to get up at, I don't know. That's me. Maybe some people like getting up there early. I'm not sure. I don't know, man. I don't know, man.
You don't want to get up at 10 a.m.?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Or 7 a.m.?
Phil, I got a prop bet with Doug Polk. Me and him made a bet on the last podcast a couple weeks ago. We made a bet that I need to get 3 current NBA players on the podcast or retired players who are well known, and I get 1 year to do it. Do you think I am a favorite or an underdog to make this bet a reality?
Favorite.
Okay. I thought so too. But some people said it'd be challenging. I said, I don't think it'd be challenging to get 3 either current or well-known retired guys on the podcast. I don't know. It seems like it's an easier thing to do.
I play poker with, in the NBA over lifetime, I wonder how many NBA players I've played poker with. A lot.
Oh. You play poker with Russell Westbrook ever? He plays PLO, I think, mainly, though.
I have not played with Russell, but he's allegedly one of the best in the NBA.
Oh, wow. Okay. I mean, he grinds. He's always playing PLO. He's always spotted at the Win during, I guess not always, but I know he's played a lot of PLO at the Win last year at least. And when he's on the road, there's always pictures of him popping up playing PLO, all stakes, not even the highest stakes sometimes. He just sort of plays whatever's there and seems to really enjoy himself.
I mean, I'll tell you that on our app, you know, the Pineapple app. Have you played on this app?
I have never played Pineapple before, no.
But I will tell you this. I'm going to just pull up the app right here. But I have a great story about the Warriors in the app. And then Michael Phelps in the app. But let's just stick to the Warriors for a second here. So that's the app.
Okay. What's the name of the app called, Phil?
It's let me just go back here. So you can see it. There's 20 people waiting for me to make a move. You can see the smiley face there in the middle. It's the one with 20 on it.
Oh, right. That one. Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm playing, you're asking about NBA, so I can't help but segue there. So it's the 2015 finals. And I'm in Vegas and I'm watching one of the games, and all of a sudden, David Lee clicks at me. And it's literally 23 minutes before game 4.
Mm-hmm.
And then another Warrior player, and another Warrior player, and another Warrior player. And I'm just like, what the hell is going on here? I'm watching on television, you know? I mean, this game, it's an NBA Finals game. And they told me, they said that there were 9 people in the locker room playing that app right then. And the reason why, it makes sense. You can kind of clear your mind a little bit before, I mean, they can get away and play Pineapple. So here's another one. You remember when Shad LaClaw was shadowboxing with Michael Phelps?
I don't know that name. What's his name? Shad LaClaw. Oh, I remember that. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
It became a huge international story.
Yeah, I remember that.
The international story. What's he trying to do? And Phelps is playing on the iPhone as LaClaw is going like this. Well, Phelps went public on NBC and said he was playing Pineapple on our app. They said, what were you doing on your phone when LaClaw was boxing? I said, oh, I didn't even notice him. Michael Phelps said, I was playing Pineapple on the app. So it's amazing how you can be, I mean, this is right before an Olympic final. It's amazing how you know, how many athletes are involved, you know, playing
And that sort
poker.
of stuff. Yeah.
Hmm.
I definitely, I mean, I always hear when I put the tweet out there and I talked about it, I got some messages from people saying, you know, you should get this guy on or try to get that guy on or try to get that guy on. So I don't know, Phil, I'm gonna try my best here to make it happen, and we'll see what happens here. So shout out to everybody in the chat, guys. I appreciate all the comments, all the questions. We've had some funny ones. We've definitely banned some of you guys in the chat today, and I couldn't be happier to ban you guys. And I think Phil, so if Phil, what people want to follow along with you, you know, tell them you got Instagram, being the greatest, and you have Twitter, Phil_Hellmuth, and then you have you got Snapchat. You a Snapchat guy too?
I've never done Snapchat, but I think I'm the ideal guy to do it. I mean, can you imagine Mark Cuban and I doing a shot and I get it on, you know, I mean, and I snap it out? That would be fun, you know, or Kate Upton and I having a talk about poker strategy and life. And I think some of those snaps would be, what is it, 10 seconds would be pretty good. I think I'd have some really fun spots. I mean, I can imagine myself in a high stakes poker game pulling out a little snap before the river, and you know, just I can just see. I mean, I can be at a World Series of Poker final table and say, "Hey, here's a snap from a hand I'm all in with." You know, I mean, it would seem like there'd be some great places for me to use it.
For sure. I mean, I think people would want to follow along with that. I mean, I know Doug Polk's one guy who does a lot of that stuff, and he does that. He kind of shows the same thing where he'll show this and show the cards and stuff like that. So I think people out there would enjoy following along with that for sure. And then you said your book's coming out in a month and a half. Is that when it's coming out?
Yeah, that's right. It's a Poker Brat. I'm really excited about it. I mean, it's 400 pages, but I mean, I think people are really gonna. I don't know. I think people are really gonna enjoy it. You know, from the high school kind of struggling in high school, almost high school loser, to winning the main event. You know, 5 years later, to, you know, kind of the swings that you take. You know, to meeting my wife and some of the great stories we have there. And you know, I've had a pretty fun life, and I think, and I share all of the ups and downs in the book.
I think the last thing I was thinking about was, you know, Poker Shares. They put out the odds for Super High Roller Bowl time mix site, and they have you. I think it was at 0.99 on there. I think that. So they have you at. So I think it's what, $1 regular 1-to-1, but they have you a little bit under 1-to-1, so 0.99. If people want to buy a piece of you, they can go to Poker Shares. They can invest in you at 0.99 on the site.
Oh, so they're actually getting a discount.
They're giving a discount, correct? Yeah, they're giving a discount on you.
It would be really fun for me to win that thing, and like I have so many doubters and people that underestimate me, and I think I really don't really know much about who even Timex is, but I finally, about a month ago, I finally watched something that I was bored and I started watching his stream, and then he said something about me that I was just like, something about me in an interview that was pretty disrespectful, and I was just like, whoa, I can't. I guess he's not a fan of mine and doesn't have much faith in my hold'em. I think he maybe should take a look back at. I think maybe I have the best return on investment in history, ROI, for anybody that's played, other than Darvin Moon or somebody. The USA Today did a story about that. So I don't play that many hold'em tournaments. I run deep all the time. I don't mind being underestimated, though, and I think that it's a little disrespectful. I felt super disrespected before the 2005 NBC Heads Up Championships too.
Why is that?
It just seemed like they weren't giving me much respect on the odd sheets, and it kind of pissed me off. And then I won it. Shut those guys up. It's always nice. Like, that's one thing that does drive me, is, you know, people were talking about how bad I was at poker, how I sucked, and it was this and it was that, and I was seeing all that negativity. Now, it might only be 1 or 2% of the people that are saying that, right? But I heard it loud and clear, and then all of a sudden, I still remember, and then all of a sudden I won a bracelet. This was in maybe 12, and all of a sudden all the headlines are, I'm the greatest poker player in history. You know? And so I went from hater status to, like, it's amazing. Like, they just, what do they think? They think that just 1 month you're great and 1 month you're not. So it feels
you're not the lowest person he has on here. I think the lowest person here is John Morgan and Lauren Roberts at 0.7. And then they got Loose Leon. I can't believe they got Loose Leon from King's Casino at 0.75 on this site, man. I gotta have a talk with I'm gonna have Mike on the podcast on Thursday. We're gonna talk about some of these numbers that they have him at. They have, I think Fedor's the top guy, 1.43 right now. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. I'm going to be doing a fantasy draft on Saturday. I'm taking all the guys I had in the podcast this week. I'm going to try to. We got Berkey. I'm going to try to take Phil, and I'm going to try to take Jason Kuhn. I'm pretty sure Jason's playing this, right? Yeah, he is. I think so. Yeah, Jason Kuhn's playing. I'm going to try to get all three of you guys on the team because the podcast run good is real, and I'm calling it right now. One of the guys I'm having on this week is going to win it. I'm telling you right now. I just see it coming. I see it happening. One of you three is going to win it, Phil. And we're going to be anxiously watching, following along, and definitely excited to see what happens there. So I guess any last parting words you might want to leave with the people, Phil? Any last words here?
I am looking forward to the Super High Roller Bowl. I think it's going to be on the Poker Go app.
Yep.
Which you can use the code Phil for. And then some of the other is going to be on CBS or NBC Sportsnet or CBS Sportsnet. One of the two. It's easy to find. Super High Roller Bowl. This is a $300,000 buy-in. I am looking forward to this, and it does give me a chance to kind of, it gives me a chance to prove that I'm pretty good at this Hold'em thing. Mm-hmm.
Well, we'll be watching, we'll be looking. And guys, I think that's it. Just like I said at the beginning, but we talked about, I think they won it. I talked with Upswing Poker, Doug. They're putting out this tournament course, Doug. They're putting out a tournament course. And I said, let's give Phil a free course, man. But they said, well, it's not coming out till next week. So I don't know if that's going to happen still, but that's going to be up next Monday. And I think I'm giving away a lot of extra stuff for that whenever it comes out. But that's it. That's all I got. Phil, good luck with the tournament. Go ahead, get on the grind, kid. And thank you for coming on the podcast. Everyone out there, much love to everybody. Be back Thursday, Timex podcast. If you watch this, you join late, go back to the beginning, watch it from the beginning. That's it. That's all I got. I'm not good. I'm not as good as Phil. Phil, you're great at the advertising stuff, man. I can't do that shit. You're like you're like promo code Phil. Do that. I can't do it. I'm not that good. But
good luck, everybody. I'm out.
Much love. Peace.